I am a proponent of engagement with our adversaries. I think that that's really one of the most important things diplomacy is about, is really negotiating with your adversaries and your enemies. That's really one of the highest tasks of diplomacy. I think the United States especially has nothing to lose by talking, unless we feel so insecure about ourselves that we think talking is a concession. Talking becomes a concession only if you're willing to give up things up front. And I don't think any American administration, Democratic or Republican, is that naive. A lot of people refer to President Ronald Reagan, who had very strong convictions about communism in the Soviet Union. And he branded the Soviet Union as the evil empire. Yet, during his 2 terms, the Reagan administrations negotiated continually with the Soviet Union, especially in arms control issues. So I think that's a good model to follow. You engage, you test the waters, you determine if there is common ground between the 2 countries' positions and interests, and if there is, you try to build on them. And if there isn't, at least you've tried before you have to go to other options. So to me, there's absolutely a very real interest for the United States to engage with countries like Syria and Iran. Well, Syria has a major interest, for example, in regaining the Golan Heights, which it lost to Israel in the 1967 war. That is a real incentive for them to engage with us, because they realize our position vis-a-vis Israel. And ever since I've been involved in the Israeli-Syrian negotiations, the Syrians always wanted us in the room or just outside the room in terms of Israeli-Syrian negotiations. Therefore, I believe that they realize that if progress is made in Israeli-Syrian peace negotiations, Syria will then become recognized as a constructive player in the Middle East by the United States, the Europeans, and other powers in the international community. It can regain its regional role, but in the context of Arab-Israeli peace, it would have to really forego a strong hand in Lebanon and stop interfering in Lebanese internal political affairs. It would have to stop its support of Hezbollah and Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. These are things that would be part of it. But given my experience and even recent talks with the Syrians, I am convinced that the largest stake they have is enough of an inducement for them to engage seriously in Israeli-Syrian negotiations. In all my discussions with Israeli officials and military personnel on high and at different levels, they are very interested in an Israeli-Syrian peace agreement, because that would truly stabilize Israel's northern front. It would stabilize Israel's problems with Hezbollah in Lebanon. It would cut off Syrian support for groups like Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And under those conditions, Israel would be more secure. And when I say more secure, Israel will not be giving up its military superiority in the region, but it would have eliminated one of the most important military Arab powers on its borders as an enemy. So yes, the Israelis are very, very interested in Israeli-Syrian peacemaking. Iran is probably more problematic in terms of engagement because of the nature of the regime, the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the Ayatollah Khomeini, they took hostage our diplomats. Those 444 days have left a real bad mark in American public opinion, as it should. And Iran has supported terrorist organizations, including Hezbollah and Hamas and others throughout the world. Iran proselytizes a very extremist view on major political issues, including Israel and Arab-Israeli peace. Iran has threatened its neighbors, especially in the Gulf. So Iran is more problematic. Having said that, Iran is a regional power. It's Persia. It has a very rich history. It's there. It has one of the larger populations in the region. It has oil. It has gas. It has a serious military force. Therefore, Iran can be a real major problem, or an attempt could be made to make it a more constructive player in the region. On that basis, I think the common ground we have, especially with the nuclear issue, the question mark of Iran's nuclear weapons intentions to engage, I think every effort has to be made to stem the possibility that Iran becomes a nuclear weapons power, because that will cause a cascading effect in the region, whereby countries like Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Turkey and others will start thinking about their own nuclear weapons potential. So I think an effort should be made to engage Iran without illusions, put all the issues we have on the table, but put them on the table in a comprehensive whole.